the credits, but then you also get the association chat t-shirt, and maybe you're able to, I don't know, I'd have to think about it, but something where you get these different levels of engagement and a little bit of love back from the show.
Yeah, I would
never take away from the value of this.
That's amazing that you've done this. Why? Do you mind if I just ask you just briefly, why did you start doing this in 2009?
No, well, here's the deal.
Amazing.
So it started out as a Twitter chat, and it was a tweet chat, and people just showed up and they talked about whatever. And actually, Jeff DeCania, so the hashtag #AssenChat, I'm going to blame my good friend Jeff on that one, because he actually brought people together to communicate on Twitter about this. But he's a busy guy. He's very successful in what he does with consulting, and they would show up and just hold space for the association community. And he said, I can't do it. Can anybody step in? And I did. And I just kept doing it. Good
for you. I love it.
And finally, he came back and he said, Kiki, I think it's fair to say this is your thing. And, at that point, I'd already started organizing it by Q1, Q2, Q3. Here's the topic we're going to talk about and all of that kind of thing. And so, I mean, it's been like that ever since. And it jumped from, a few years ago from tweet chat to doing video interviews. And it's now we have the podcast too. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Kelly says, I recently read about an idea of producing just a 4 to 5 minute video that teaches one quick concept to show what you could learn in a webinar series. I'm going to try that. Ooh, I love that idea. I love that idea. I think what would be a hurdle for a lot of people is a lot of them would get hung up in even creating that 4 to 5 minute video where they feel like they either need to work with a video production team or they're just not sure exactly. A lot of people get scared about, we want to make it short enough, poppy enough, snazzy enough, compelling enough that it's going to draw people in. And there's so many ways to approach this. But I think that just deciding not to do it is maybe the biggest mistake, because they should try, right? They should experiment and try. What do you guys think?
Yeah, pick a place on the spectrum of your content leaders doing a phone selfie video to, all the way to the other end of having produced media bits, to promote particular events. I mean, find a place on the spectrum that's comfortable and just start and just try. And, those little bits could then become, you could put them in a repository of tips. If you format it in a particular way and you just ask each speaker one question, what's one amazing takeaway from your presentation? And then suddenly at the end of the year, if you're doing one per webinar, Renee, you have 40.
Yes.
40 amazing tips. And think about, exactly what you want, where on the spectrum of production you want, and then just keep it tight. I
love it. So Karen responded a little bit earlier. She said, I believe if you provide the education, folks will pay or subscribe at a certain level, Kiki. They need to be able to select their level of subscription. Everyone has different needs. Agreed. Adrian says, does anyone do sponsored webinars? She's talking about sponsors get an opportunity to host an educational webinar. If so, do you educate the presenters the same? I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen those happen. So do you do that? Do you do that, Renee, or have you thought about doing that?
It has been considered, but we haven't gotten that far yet. So we haven't incorporated sponsors yet.
I was going to go back to that comment about the 4 to 5 minute teaser. Another thing that's kind of related to webinars that we do a lot of is virtual conferences. And there was a virtual conference that we produced recently, and the client produced a video, just like five minutes max. It was probably more like 2-3 minutes each day to talk about what was going on in the virtual conference. And they did it just from a staff room. Totally. I mean, it was microphoned well, but it was not studio production. And there was something so endearing about it just being, I'm a staff person, I'm in the hood, here I am, I'm just talking to you about what's going on today. So there's a nice message that comes with the video production that says, we're not Disney. We're talking to you about content and what you're going to get out of this. And I think that can go far. Don't get too hung up in all the polish that has to be in those videos.
I love that. I love that you just said that, because production quality was an area that we wanted to touch on. And that is, a lot of people think that you have to have all the bells and whistles, that you have to have videographers, that you have to have, and Renee is sitting in front of her fancy schmancy green screen, ready for all kinds of video production to happen. Yes. But, and I keep expecting to see like some sort of dinosaur come in the background or something crazy happen. But you don't need that. I think that people, they do respond to authentic communication. You need to be able to hear. You need to be able, hopefully you see okay. But I think as long as you get the message, right? What do you guys think about that?
Well, we're talking about video for promotion. I think that something that we've touched on but not talked a lot about is production values for a webinar. And that's an opportunity for us to radically change the experience. So that starts with how we work with our speaker and how we prepare them and how we design this to be a learning experience, or at least differentiate it. If it's an informational experience, that's fine. Let's just be upfront about it. But if we want learning to happen, taking care of that. We've got the competencies on board the team to work with our speaker, make sure that happens. There also has to be someone who's running the ship. It's more than just administrating, behind the scenes, the technology. It's, an entirely new role, a webinar facilitator role. And Lance does some amazing work himself in this area and training other people how to do that. And then we just have to think about how we're going to use this technology to engage our target audiences, which is going to be different for, millennials who want to have more of the apps and they want to have different ways to interact. And they don't want you to assume they're going to be looking at you all the time. They got things to do, right? And so we do have to think about those production values when it comes to transforming webinars.
Oh, I've got to think about that some more. There's a lot there. Okay. So Adrian, so we talked about Adrian's. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the on-demand webinars and talking about how effective or ineffective they are. A lot of people are trying to figure out whether they should offer them because maybe it takes away from their actual in-person attendance or live attendance when people sign up and assume that they're just signing up and they'll just get the webinar sent to them later. On-demand webinars, good idea, bad idea? What do people need to know about this?
I'll start us off. We do a little bit of differentiation on our archives. So one of the things that I've found over time is that as professionals, when we attend these webinars, we're a little bit nervous about really talking frankly about what's maybe going on in our organization or something that's not, exactly perfect. So we want to create a safe space, if at all possible, to have some real engagement. So for our archives, we do not publish the attendee list and we do not publish the chat. And that allows me to, first of all, differentiate the live program from the canned program afterwards and say, this is what you're not going to see if you don't attend live. And it also allows people to know that they don't have to worry about spelling mistakes. They don't have to worry about whatever they want to express. It's not going to show up on the archive. So that's something that we do.
That's really interesting. I can recall a time, I was using a different platform at the time, but it did include the comments and people's names with it when you reposted. Now, for Crowdcast, whenever it is streamed and shared later, nobody sees the comments and no one sees who's actually attending in this platform. So on Facebook, we can see who's participating there, but not actually who's participating here.
Good.
A previous platform I used was not like that. And when I shared the replay in the private Facebook group, someone contacted me later and said, "Ooh, could you take that down? I don't want my comment to be seen." So you can see where that could be a real issue and why there might be a need to have different formats and different be aware of the different types of channels and what you're offering as far as privacy for the people who are engaged.
Can I just add one last thing to that? When you do in the end, if you're going to unmute people and ask them to answer a question, which I do in my webinars, then I tell people I don't record that part. I literally just turn off the recording for that part so that people really don't have to worry, because now they're going to be talking. The attendees are going to be talking, and what they share in that part is the most valuable stuff. That is the best part. And so sometimes it's good to turn the recording off.
That's so true. Well, occasionally I have a live, with a live studio audience association chat, and it's when the actual official cameras turn off that the group around there, the people in the audience, we have probably another 30 minutes of discussion, and people will say, oh, but this was the best part. And I'm like, well, it's because it's not, it's not captured, nobody else has that. So you can get those really good questions and get really honest. You guys, this has been amazing. We're approaching the end of the hour, and it has just absolutely flown by. I want to ask you, do you have maybe one takeaway that people can take with them, one really solid takeaway that you would suggest that folks can use immediately to start using tomorrow or even today to start making a real difference in their webinars?
Well, I would say consider putting together a cross-functional team. Like I had mentioned earlier, this doesn't just lie in one department, in one person. There are so many people that touch data in so many different ways. You have maybe membership that has more information about demographics that perhaps I don't have. And so I would recommend pulling in a small team. And we have 6 here. It doesn't have to be a large team, and I would recommend a small team if possible. But getting someone from membership and getting someone from marketing and professional development to come together.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Tracy?
I would say realize that this is a learning space, and to not treat it as a place to regurgitate an experience from elsewhere, but a place where we design a new experience together. And because this technology was specifically crafted for interaction, think about that as your starting point. How will we interact around this content today so that we can rise together, so that we can learn together, we can build community around content? That's really what webinars are superheroes at. And so leverage that.
I love it. All right. And you're up.
I would say, try a breakout. Try ways to get people talking to each other. If you can, put on your DJ hat and start unmuting people. Give them a question, let them think about the question so they're not real shocked, and start hearing your attendees' voices, and you'll be amazed. That makes a big impact, makes it more real for everybody.
I love it, Lance. Thank you so much. You guys, this really has been incredible. And I can already see in Tracy's face, she has more that she wishes that she could have said. So, we had a little brief discussion before we went live, you guys. And so I think I have a couple of links and resources that I'm going to be able to share with you after we log off here and I'm able to pull things together. I will post it on associationchat.com, and I will also be sharing it in the private Facebook group for Association Chat. If you're not a part of it, I hope you become a part of it. For all of you, thank you so much for being a part of today's Association Chat. As a reminder, you can always catch each week's live episode as an audio podcast on Fridays on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Next week's live chat is talking about what will we do for work, when we'll be talking with association leaders and their partners on innovative ways to approach the skills gap. These are association executives and some of their industry partners who are coming up with some pretty creative ways in order to address the skills gap, working together and reaching out to communities who either want to pivot in their careers or new people who are new and younger coming into the workplace. So you want to catch that. It's going to be really important. Until next time, everyone, keep asking questions to learn every day. As Joseph